Hey guys, welcome back to the MVM Show. I'm Titus, your host, and I'm here with Harrison as well, co-host. And we got Colton Thompson from Maker's Call Company out of Tennessee. Thanks for joining us today, Colton.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Good, man. Good. We're excited about this podcast. Appreciate you coming on, taking the time. I don't know, you've probably been working on calls all day or something, but glad at the end of the day, it's probably around 5 o'clock for you. I'm glad you came on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just finished up eating early dinner, and I did get to turn calls today. So yeah, been a busy day. It's that time of year. We're in between splits right now. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's all right.
You guys just got back from the World, didn't you?
We did. Yeah, Travis and I both did. We came back on. I started my trip back Saturday night, and I spent the night with him. Then I made it the rest of the way back to home afterwards. Yeah, we had a pretty good run. We made it to the third round, which is for the World's contest in Stuttgart. That's that's really what you're shooting for. You get to the third round, it's really kind of anybody's game, and you don't know what your scores are. Everybody in the crowd does. They get a nice little poster board, and they put the scores up as everybody's blowing, but we as the callers don't know. So you make it to the third round, everybody's like, okay, well, who's in the lead? Who's blowing really well, who hasn't? If you get to the third round though, you've blown really well. Like, you're not going to just kind of get into the third round by mistake. So the third round is like the first win, I guess, if that makes sense. Obviously you want to win the whole thing, but that third round, I guess, is sort of a consolation prize. I don't like consolation prizes, but it is still
In that situation, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Because you're blowing against this time we had 56 callers, so you're blowing against 56 of the best callers across the U.S. So you're bumping elbows with a lot of folks from all over. So.
Doesn't it kind of help you put your name on the map too? I mean, it's got to get you more noticed in your calls and stuff too, right?
It can. So in the past, that's used to be how guys got their name out there. All of your older call companies, that's usually what they did. They would compete in Stuttgart, and if they won, they either had a call company or was starting a call company, and it was, that was just kind of their way to put their name on the map. And nowadays with social media and advertising and the internet, you don't really have to do that as much. It's a little bit easier to get things rolling. Mm-hmm. But, it still definitely doesn't hurt if you go and do well.
Yeah, I bet.
Gotcha. Now, I don't know too much about that. So going through the rounds, like when you make it to round 3, is it accumulative points through each round, or are you wiped clean at the beginning of each round?
Well, yes and no. It's cumulative. Like, each round you start over and you get scored. You kind of quote unquote start over, but as the rounds go on, you do accumulate.
Okay.
So yeah, so like each round it's 70 to 80. The first round is your score, and you get 5 scores, you drop the highest and lowest, and then you get your collective score for that round. And then it's 80 to 90 the second round, then 90 to 100 the third round.
Okay.
So you do start over in a sense, but it is cumulative at the same time.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get in, go ahead.
And that's usually across the board for all contests, as far as I know, for scoring. So
right.
Yeah. So how many guys were even with you by the time you hit the third round?
The third round this year was 17 callers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how many rounds does it go? Is it 5?
3.
It is 3.
Yeah, it's three rounds for Main Street.
Oh yeah, you're definitely then for sure. You're at the end, right? Like you said.
Yeah, you're right there. You can
okay, that makes more sense why you were saying that, because because out of that, so how many places do they set? Is it 3? Like first, second, third, or?
No, they do first, and then they do first runner up through I believe 10th runner up. So
okay.
I guess technically 11 spots.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
yeah, each round, like the first round, everybody blew. That was 56 callers, and then the second round, it was they cut it down to 28, and then they cut it down to 17.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow, that's definitely saying something then.
Yeah, pretty big cut on the second round. You know, they cut it to half. So
Right.
yeah.
Before we get any further in this episode, can you tell everybody where they can find you if they're looking for calls or social media, any of that stuff?
Yeah. So we've got a website, makerscallcompany.com. And then we have Instagram, which is Makers Call Company, and then Facebook, of course. We've also got TikTok that I've tried to start giving some love to as well. It's really that's kind of out of my age range. Really not my forte, but I basically just take what I'm going to post for reels and put those over on TikTok. Mm-hmm. But we're on TikTok too. So try to keep that as like I've always thought of just keeping it as a kind of a how-to place for us. So those seem to do very well. So I think that's what we're going to keep doing until that doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm. How'd you guys get started? Kind of like to hear the backstory and history of maybe just for you personally, since your partner's not on here, but how you got into duck hunting, how you grew up with stuff, and then roll into what made you guys decide to start making calls and stuff.
Yeah, so I'll jump like right in the middle of the story and then I'll work my way back. So we've got Makers Call Company, which is Travis Ward and I. And I'm Colton Thompson I don't know if I did a formal introduction or not, but it's Travis Ward and myself for Makers Call Company. And Makers Call Company is short for, Two Custom Call Makers Call Company. You know, that obviously doesn't have a nice flow to it, so we shortened it, condensed it to Makers Call Company. So Travis and I's background is in custom call making. That's something that Travis has done, I believe, for about 15 or 16 years. And then I started in 2019, so that puts me 20, 21, 22, 23. I've been custom call making for 4 years. So almost 20 years of call making experience between both of us. Travis is the same age as me, but he just got into it a lot earlier than I did. So Travis and I joined forces on, I believe it was like April of 2020 is when we had the idea of Makers Call Company. And the idea behind it was there's only so much you can do custom call wise in a volume aspect. I only turn about anywhere from 3 to 5 a week in my custom call shop. Whereas with makers, we're selling, especially this time of year, we're filling 50 or 60 orders in just a couple of days. So, that right there kind of just hopefully gives you an idea of what the difference is between, what we do on the maker side and the custom side. And to go down even further, custom calls are typically a lot more kind of extravagant, I guess, a little bit more flashier. You've got different burls and different materials, whereas on CNC calls, typically most of the time it is just acrylic, and then different colors of acrylic. So we had the idea to do the makers lineup to, we thought our calls sounded good, obviously, we were confident in that. And we were wanting to do Travis had already done a CNC line. I was thinking about doing one. And then we both were just like, well, why don't we just team up, pull our resources together and just try to have our own call company, just do something different. And at the time, we really weren't expecting it to get to the level that it's at now. We knew a couple of guys that, bought custom calls from us, but we really had no expectation going into, starting Makers Call Company. So Makers is, kind of the idea started in 2020 and we sold our first round of calls in 2020, 2021, that duck season. Of course, duck season for us over here in the Southeast is, typically December to January. So we started with, I think it was 84 calls total of our first duck season is what that's what we had our machinists make for us. And that's what we sold. I think we might've sold a few more at the end of the year. So we went from selling, that many that year, and then the next two to three. Let's see, this would be season number 3. In the next 2 duck seasons, we end up selling several thousand, and it just
Wow.
So it's almost like it just happened out of nowhere. So that kind of blew us away that we had that kind of support, but kind of made us understand that, what we were doing, a lot of people liked, and a lot of people liked the same, style of calls that we were making. So we were like, hey, this may not be a bad idea.
So now you still make your own custom calls outside of Makers?
Yeah, that's correct. So I know it does get confusing for guys that are, not in the call collecting or don't buy a lot of duck calls all the time. So yes, I still make custom calls. That's what I do full time right now. So during the off season, I pick that up more so than Makers because, with Makers, we see a dive in the market, right there around January, February, and March.
Right.
And it doesn't really pick back up until August. So that time allows me to do custom call work, and then Travis still does some from time to time. But he's still working as a crop insurance adjuster. So, but his job.
So you just do calls full time now, right?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. I took that dive back in. I would believe it was like January of 21. So. Okay. Yeah, I jumped off quick. I don't know that if I would have thought through it much more, if I would have actually done it. And I told my wife not too long ago, I was like, "What were you thinking? Let me, do that." She's like, "Honestly, I don't know." She's like, "But it's worked out. It's done okay."
Yeah, I can understand that. About a year and a half ago, I went from a salary job and I started my own business and went out on my own. So I understand that completely.
And I feel like the year that we're in right now, like these are the tough ones, like year 3 to 5. Like, you lose that buzz after the first 2 to 3 years, or you can, then you're like, all right, how do we build from year 3 to get to year 4 and 5 and continue to, do different things while doing the same thing that we have been doing.
Right.
It's hard. It's hard to put that together. And there's days where I think me and Travis have it completely figured out. And then there's days where I'm sitting there scratching my head. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I've thought that myself a lot about calls, making calls like, if you get customers like me and Harrison, you're just going to constantly sell calls and make money off us. But some people are like one and done, like they buy a call and then that's all they're ever going to do.
They get their 2 calls on their lanyard that they like how it sounds, and they blow them forever. But
and you're like, okay, how do you make a living off? Like, I guess people are getting older people getting older, younger people getting older. So it's just kind of it's probably, people have done it for years, right?
Yeah, you're right. And it's a saturated market. There's more call makers now than there ever used to be. It seems like, and it is tough. It's not easy. I know it's went fast for us, but it's not for the lack of work and want to, for sure. Because I'm still working at night, trying to day and night, trying to get stuff done, making sure that we've got stuff coming up that people are going to like. It's been a grind. I hate to use that word. I think it's kind of overused, but it's tough to kind of crack into a market that's heavily saturated. And you're right, there's a lot of buyers out there that some folks have had a DR85 for 20 years.
Yeah.
They don't want to use anything else. So
I hunt with a couple older guys just like that.
Yeah, and it is usually the older guys. It really is. It really is usually the older ones. But duck calls are weird. We've come to find that out. I don't think there's any other thing in waterfowl quite like duck calls, and I don't know why it is like that. But people buy duck calls year round, and it's the craziest thing. And I don't know why it is, but hey, I'm okay.
You'll take it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So you said you're in your split, meaning you've already hunted a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
how's your season? How did that part of the season go?
Yeah,
not good.
Been really dry, and there were birds around, but we're in a bad drought over here.
Right.
I don't know if
we understand that.
Yeah. it's been, there have been some guys that have done really well that I've heard, but in large, it hasn't been very good for the majority. So,
Right.
we shot a few. It felt good to be back. I don't have any complaints, but it wasn't as good as I would perhaps prefer. I think we're going to have a later season, and I think it's going to get really good about January.
Mm-hmm.
I got a feeling.
Yeah. Sounds like you're a lot like us then as far as flyway and timing of birds and stuff.
Yeah. Are you guys – so you guys are all the way on the West Coast, right?
Yes, sir. And we're people try to say we're central, but we're actually – well, yeah, I guess we are. We are.
Well, what we call
– because people call the Sac Valley Northern California, and it's not.
We call this Central California, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it depends who you talk
Pretty
to.
close.
We're pretty close to right in the
But
middle.
we're far enough down that stuff doesn't start kicking off till mid-December,
So
Whatever.
when is y'all's waterfowl season? Do y'all have a longer season? Or
We do have a long one.
It's the third Saturday in October through. It used to be the last weekend, so the last Sunday in January, and now last year they changed it till the 31st. So we get third Saturday in October, usually the 21st through 24th through January 31st.
Yeah, no splits. It's a long season.
Yeah, look at y'all.
That's not even including the junior hunt afterwards, the vet hunt after that,
yeah.
and then the late goose,
We get around 100 days, pretty close.
Yeah.
We get 60.
Yeah.
That's it. And, whether those 60 are good or bad, they don't give you any kind of a reason. It is what it is. So,
yeah.
Like I said, it was good to be back. It was good to scratch that itch, but, I would like to start, pulling the trigger a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we talked about this before the podcast, but I'll just for everyone listening.
Mm-hmm.
We're out of state on a duck hunt recently, kind of worn out, having a hard time chasing the birds down. We're trying to find them. We found some birds. We go back that evening, and I'm laying in my room in the Airbnb. Harrison's in the other room. Actually, you tell the story.
I'm sitting on the couch
with John.
This other kid, John, that went with us, and I'm just scrolling Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and I stop and I was listening to that video you had put out, that reel on TikTok. And I'm listening to it, and John, I'm just sitting there.
He has it really low, so I can't hear.
It's real quiet. I look up at John, and he kind of looks up at me, and he's like, "Dude, that sounds good." So then I said, "Hey, watch this," because I know Titus and I both were just really fascinated into duck calling and blowing calls and collecting them and whatnot. So I turned my phone up and I set it there on the couch, and he's all the way across the Airbnb in his bedroom with the door half closed, and I could hear him. He's on the phone to his wife, and he's all, "Hold on. What call is that?" From across the house. And I was like, "Dude, that's that new Makers. They just dropped it. This was Tuesday, so they just dropped it yesterday." So I went on there. I was like, I have, to be honest with you, I didn't know too much about Makers. I've heard of you guys, heard it a little bit, but I'm a call collector. I literally pulled my card out, bam, ordered one, and then I walk into his room, hold my credit card. He's all, "What'd you do?" I'm like, "Oh, it's ordered. The deed has been done."
the Bolo, mind you. So it's the Bolo. And little did he know, as he's already walking there showing me his card, I was looking it up, ordering it myself. Our order numbers was one apart. It was like 92, 93 or something. So it was funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
But yeah, they come in Monday. We're excited to try it out. So can you explain a little bit about the Bolo? What's different? What's special about that call?
Yeah. So this has been, we wanted to come out with, well, let me start here. I know you guys are familiar with like Lair's hybrid calls.
Right.
There's, got a heavy footprint out there. So hybrid, the term hybrid now has got thrown around, and a lot of people have hybrid calls. And what we wanted to do was, and something we noticed that there was a gap of, is on the hybrid scale, you've got J-frame on one end, you've got cut down on the other. We noticed a lot of the hybrid calls would come in, either at the middle or closer to, how a traditional J-frame would run.
Right.
Well, what we wanted to do was come in closer to the cut down side. And so the Bolo was the fit for that. So what we've done is we took our insert's a little bit shorter. It's bored out, so that's typically how cut downs are. And we've got an upslope tone board, which is usually in place for cut downs, and then we have a 10 mil cut down style reed. The cut down style reeds are usually a lot slimmer and longer and skinnier. And then we've got a little bit longer barrel than normal, or I say, a little bit longer than what we're accustomed to putting on calls. Right. So that's the Bolo, from a technical standpoint. It's going to sound like a cut down if you want to run it that way. But it's also going to sound like a J frame, a very deep pitch, very aggressive J frame if you want to blow it that way. So it's not going to be a very fancy call. You're not going to be able, if you spend enough time on it, get your air used to it maybe, but it's going to be just a good, solid hunting call that's going to get a lot of birds' attention because it's going to have its own unique kind of tone and sound to it.
Right. What are you doing that makes making it sound like a cut down versus a J frame? How are you doing your own sequence and stuff?
So, I'll run it. How do I personally run the call?
Yeah, you just do more back pressure or like?
Well, so, blowing a cut down versus blowing a J frame is, it's different air presentation and you have different mechanics with your hand, but it's not that much harder. So I'll clear that up for guys. I know a lot of people say cut downs are harder to blow, but for me, you're having a more abrupt shut off with your tongue and you're using your hand more to throw that note. So that's
a lot more snappy.
Yeah, you're not you're not pushing your air through the call. You're cutting your note. You're cutting your air off really quick. Because with a J frame, you're usually just kind of dragging. I don't say dragging your notes, but you're dragging.
I know what you mean. We were talking about that.
We were just talking about
it. It hangs out longer.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
which I hate to say because everyone, you say I have 285, getting close to 300 episodes on here, and stuff I said 4 years ago. Maybe my opinions changed, but it's like I have gotten so much. I'll never get rid of my layers at all. I love them to death. Love them, but I will say, like the snap of a cut down. I guess you could do that. You can do that too with the layers. I'm not saying that, but it just has just that different.
It's got a different tone.
Yeah, it just sounds so good.
And there's not on the West Coast out here. Hardly anybody blows them. If you stop 100 guys out there hunting, you'd be lucky if one of them had a cut down on their lanyard at the top. So it's kind of one of those things. We almost started using it as, something different. Little, especially later in the year, you can really tell the birds they just react to it different out here because all they hear is a monotone J frame from the top to the bottom, all the way down the West Coast.
Yeah. Well, for the guys, I think we were talking about this earlier. For the guys that didn't, that don't want to switch between calls a good bit, that just want one call and want to be able to, sound like they have two different calls. The Bolo is going to be that, that missing link for folks. That was one of the ideas behind the call.
Has that been a hot call for you right now?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, we're sold out of them. We're supposed to have a restock probably mid-December, I think.
Okay.
On the stock colors. So.
Okay. Would you be able to do a sound file for us with that?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what we can do. Hopefully I won't miss a note. We'll see. I called him a good bit.
Hey, you were in Worlds, so this can't be half as bad as that.
Right, yeah. I'm going to make sure my call's locked in here. There we go.
Sounds good, man.
Hopefully that didn't blow me out on the speakers.
No, not even close. Very good. So I gotta ask. We kind of talked about it beforehand. Made sure it was cool with you and everything.
Yeah.
What are you? I already forgot what you called that one.
The high hand.
The high hand.
Yeah. So
How are you doing that, dude?
All
Are you
right.
just closing your hand off?
Well, no, yes and no. It depends. This is how I do it. Now, I'm not as efficient at it as I'd like to be, but this is the way you do it. You take you've got your exhaust in your call. Basically, what you're going to do is cover with whatever finger you think is comfortable for you. Sometimes I use my pointer finger. Sometimes I use my bird finger. What you want to do is, and it's going to be different for everybody, different for each call and your air presentation, but you want to cover up maybe half of that exhaust, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. And what that's going to do is that's going to build up a little back pressure in the call, obviously, but it's going to thin that note out and it won't sound as gravelly and rattly.
Mm-hmm.
So it should sound, let's see if I can get it right. So you can play with your adjustment on your finger if you want it to be a little bit louder. So you can change it. You can change it to make it sound a little bit louder, a little bit, more muffled. For the field, maybe it's not very helpful, but it is still kind of cool to do on the call. You'll see it some in competition, so it's just a little asset to little tool to put in your tool belt.
Yeah, right.
I
think it just sounds great too. You just don't ever hear no one do it, and it reminds me of when you're out hunting and off in the distance you hear a hen just going off.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, and I say you can't use it hunting. I just don't do a lot on the call when I'm hunting, so. Right. I probably wouldn't use it. Maybe if I got desperate and everything else wasn't working, but most of the time I'm pretty straightforward. But it's easy to do. You just have to play with your placement on the exhaust and just kind of see what feels comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. I have a feeling you may be doing that a good bit tonight.
I'll be messing with it.
He actually almost had it figured out just from that video. He was messing. I'm like,
I knew you were cutting the air off. I didn't particularly know you were putting your finger completely over the exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it depends on how the call runs too for you. I mean, you may be able to use your hand. For me, I would have a tendency for it to airlock, so I don't want that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'll turn into a speck or a snow goose.
Right.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No kidding. No, that's good. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were. So have you been duck hunting for quite some time, like your whole life?
No. So Travis is the seasoned veteran. My first duck season was 2017.
Really?
Yep. That was 2000.
That's crazy.
Pretty good caller for
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Took that serious.
I dove off the deep end when I had the funds to be able to do it. Because I mean, as a college kid, I graduated college in 2016. I didn't want to ask my parents for money to go basically have fun. And so when I graduated, I was like, I think I've seen some guys duck hunt. Never had been on a duck hunt, but just had seen, watched the videos. I think Duck Commander was kind of popular at that time. So yeah, I was one of those guys watching them. I still think the Duck Commander crew's done a good bit for folks. I don't think they're bad at all. I know they get a bad rap, but especially from a spiritual walk, they're a great representative.
Right, absolutely. The original Duckman videos. I mean, that was first filming of duck hunting. Really, there was.
Yeah.
We'll usually have those playing when we go somewhere, just playing in the background. Yeah, it's something you watch your whole life. Love watching those. Yeah, still don't get tired of them.
Yeah, duck hunting's cool, man. It's because I had started deer hunting in college, but deer hunting is boring. I mean, it is. There's days where I want to go, and there's days I need a little quiet time. But overall, that fellowship that comes along with duck hunting is really fun, and I enjoy it. So I fell off the deep end when I found out you could sit there and have a conversation and cut up and laugh and have a good time all the while hunting. So yeah, it was kind of crazy for it to go as fast as it has for me, but I just put my foot on the gas and kept rolling.
Mm-hmm. Now, where did you go to school?
So I graduated from the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Okay. Yeah. So I'm from Northeast Alabama, which is where I still currently live. Travis is in West Tennessee in Huntington. That's where we have everything centralized out of for makers. So Huntington, Tennessee is the hub for all things Makers Call Company. It is. I keep half the inventory here and ship out of my shop. But that's where we keep everything. That way, if anybody wants to travel through and come by the shop, because we're getting our shop built right now. So next year when guys want to stop in, grab a call or sit down and chat, we'll have the shop open and available for guys to come through.
And that'll be in Tennessee?
Yeah, that'll be it. That'll be right down the road from Travis's house. Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
Yeah. So I graduated from UA in 2016. I've got an engineering degree. I used it for a little while, but in 21, I saw a way out to not have to use it. So I kind of jumped ship and just figured out how to make it work.
That's not an easy degree to get either.
No, it wasn't, but I did use it for a little bit. So that way my parents couldn't be too upset with me.
Yeah, I got 3, and I work in the field that they're aimed towards, but I never needed them. Right after I graduated, well, actually, my last semester of college, I went out on my own, started my own business. So I don't know. It's one of those things. You'll always have it. You
will. Yeah. I mean, the Arsenal is just down the road I say down the road. I'm like an hour from the Arsenal, which is where I used to work. So if I needed to go back, I could. It's a good fallback. I'm not planning on doing that though. So I like my freedom during the day. I like to be able to go and do as I choose.
Yeah, I hear you.
What's your guys' favorite cut down that is popular with people, but also your guys' favorite cut down?
All right, so it's different for me and it's different for Travis. So I like personally the LA shortcut. I think that's a really good call. That like we were going to line up, going from J-frame to cut down. I would say Origin, Bolo, LA shortcut, and then we step into the Makers cut. That is kind of the LA shortcut used to be the segue into cut downs for folks. Like if folks would say, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting a cut down. I want to try them. What do you think would be a good cut down to start with?" And I would always say the LA shortcut. Now Travis would say the shortcut, and he likes
just the standard
shortcut. That's right. And then I like the Makers cut, the full length one, and he liked the full length LA cut. So we were split on that one, oddly.
Okay.
But the Makers cut and the LA shortcut seem to be probably our two best cut downs that we sell the most of, that people really like. And we're working on a new cut down right now, so that'll be another call for next year. We won't have it ready for this season because we pushed out the spec call, the tarmac, and we pushed out the Bolo. So we were like, all right, that's enough. That's enough new stuff for this year. We're gonna do a little bit of tweaking on the new cut down and hopefully have it rolled out. Right now, we're planning on rolling it out at NWTF in February.
Okay,
be a big show. Yeah.
You guys hunt a lot of specs?
I don't know. Travis hunts them more than I do, but not too terribly much. I know that. Okay. I know you guys have a lot of specs out there, right?
Yeah.
And
that's about the only goose call I carry.
Yeah, and I know in Arkansas they get covered up with them a good bit.
Yeah.
So I think specs are cool though. I like watching them work because they kind of work.
Oh yeah.
And if you're really good on a spec call, it's really impressive just to listen to some of the guys blow a spec call. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. So I appreciate you sharing the cut down deal with because I know there's newer people to it. They'll definitely want to listen. So you said the first one was what again? Like you would suggest.
The LA shortcut would be
LA shortcut.
Yeah, like so if you're wanting to step into a cut down for the first time, the LA shortcut, that would be my recommendation. So we'll talk about it. We'll dissect it a little bit. The LA shortcut's got that 45-degree angle on the front of the tone board. If you pull it apart, it's going to be kind of jagged. And with that, I think that makes the call run looser and gives you more of an aggressive tone throughout the call, more so than just a regular maker's cut insert. Now, when you throw the short barrel on there, it's not going to require you to keep as much air in the call to keep the reed going, and it's going to feel more like what you're used to with a J frame. So that's why I'll suggest it over anything else. It really helps. Really helps guys, make that jump.
Yeah. Now I can't remember if I've seen or not. Do you guys sell J frames?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have the Monarch and we have the Origin. Our Origins are still our best seller. I mean, we're almost sold out of them. We didn't forecast, or I think we forecasted correctly, but we just missed it by a few. So so anybody listening, we've got Origins coming. I hope this weekend or first next weekend we'll have restocked. But yeah, the Origin is that was our first call that we came out with in 21, and it's been a big hit with a lot of folks. We've got a reed kit for it, reeds 1 through 6.
I didn't know that.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. Yeah.
So are those reeds hand cut?
Lasered. Yeah.
Lasered. Okay, so similar to the layer system.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got those. We've got laser reeds for the Origin. We have laser reeds for the Monarch, and then we're gonna have laser reeds for the Bolo as well.
That's good to know.
That is good to know.
We wanted to get some feelers on what people thought about it. What they thought that the stock reed right now, how it ran, and then kind of build the reed kit based off of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I like having that option. Especially for just the ease of tuning for hunting. As far as a lot of these guys, I mean, even myself, I've tuned calls a little bit, but not crazy into it. So I grew up blowing the layer system, so it's just kind of easy. I know what reed I blow. Every year I grab a few of them, clean them up, slap them in there, you bottom them out, and you're the same every time without having to sit there and sand and file on stuff.
Yep, absolutely. And I like it too. I mean, I'm the same reason as you. I like to be able to just because what we've done is we took out human error with that laser.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Making those micro adjustments with the laser, that really lets you know, hey, I do need a heavier call or I don't. I just think it takes out human error and makes life a lot easier for guys. And then that way they don't have to worry about having a pair of scissors or anything like that.
Yeah. Right. And I like how it gives you just a straight baseline, like in this call's a 1.365. So I can just always buy that reed, and I know that's what I like for what I want that call to sound like, and I don't have to mess with it, and it's day in day out it's going to be the same.
Yeah. So our reeds are 1 through 6, 1 being the lightest, 6 being the heaviest, and we usually send everything out with a 3. So
that's good to know. Yeah,
that's super good. Yeah,
I'm gonna look into picking up a couple of
Let's spend more money.
That's all right.
If you do it, I have to do it too.
Yeah. I mean, the Origin really is. The Origin and the Bolo are really tough to beat. I mean, it's hard for me to pick one that I really love because I love them all. Somebody asked me here a while back, what call do you keep on your lanyard? I say, and I just rotate through them because I have to blow them and make sure that in the field they sound like I think they need to, and if we need to make any adjustments next year. So, of course, I've got my custom calls too that I need to blow in the field as well. So it's tough for me to pick, but the Origin is pretty tough to beat. And I feel like each call has its own group of lovers because we do have some folks that say they can't blow the Origin, but they love the Monarch, and vice versa.
What would you say the Bolo's closest to? The Origin or the?
Man, it's honestly equally in the middle between the Origin and the cut down. I mean, it really
guess
is.
what I'm-
It's really not any. It's because if I say it's one way closer, then I'm like, no, it may be a little bit closer this way. Yeah, it's really tough for me to pick. We're just stuck right there in the middle.
I guess what I'm getting at is if I'm going to order one, which one do I order?
Like you got the Bolo, in my opinion, if you really wanted to go to the other end of the spectrum, I would go with the Monarch, because if you lined up the hybrid scale, you got the Monarch being on the J-frame end, the Origin kind of being, 5, your scale, 1 to 10, it's a 5. And then like the Bolo would be, your 7 or 8. And then a 10 would be, a true cut down. That's my opinion. Don't hold me to it, but that's kind of what I think.
Now, on your custom calls, on your own personal thing, are you making cut downs and J-frames all for that?
So the cut down was my addition to the Makers lineup. So I came up with the Makers cut. That was my baby. So I'd say 90% of it was me, 10% Travis, and then in juxtaposition to that, the Origin would be 90% Travis, and then 10%, my input. And then the Monarch was an equally divided call that we both, I'd say 50-50 split that one. But yes, but I do have, I've got some sitting here. I've got my own. This is my original old style shape is what I call this. This is my old style J-frame. And then I made a new call this year. I've got a new style J-frame, which a lot of people kind of confuse this with the Monarch, and I can see it some, but it's not the Monarch. It's close in shape, and but it doesn't sound the same as the Monarch. But this is where the Monarch started, is with this new style. But there is some some bleed over, but not too terribly much. And then of course I have the cut down, which looks just like the Maker's cut.
Gotcha.
What's your favorite wood for a call?
Well, for a cut down, I really like Coca-Cola. If I'm using now we're talking about tone boards, okay? So if we're because here I'll show you on this one, because with custom calls, you've got the ability to sleeve a call, so you've got a blue tone board, which is a totally different material than what the keg is here. So, as far as tone board goes, for a cut down, it's going to be Coca-Cola. Now, when we step into J-frames, I would say probably like Persimmon or Hedge, because those two have a natural rasp to them. They're going to be a little bit more raspy than Coca-Cola or African Blackwood. Coca-Cola and African Blackwood are going to run really smooth. So that's the reason I like in cut downs to have a kind of smoother running material, because that cut down is already going to have enough gravel in it, and I don't want to give it too much. So yeah. Now, if we're talking about just like strictly looks and like what's my favorite material to turn, I'm a big fan of maple, curly maple, or maple burl. Those are my two kind of go-tos. I really like turning them. I think they look pretty. That's just I just gravitate towards that material.
How long is it taking you to make? I mean, I don't know if I shouldn't ask that question just for the sake of what it costs and the time, but I mean, it's probably pretty labor intensive, right?
It is. It's gotten a lot quicker since I know where I'm going, right? But if nobody, like a basic call, nobody bothers me, my phone doesn't go off, which is very
not doing podcasts.
Yeah, not doing podcasts. No, if my phone's not going off, if I'm not responding to messages, and if somebody hands me a blank of wood and says go, I can get typically, this is just a regular old call, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola insert, Coca-Cola barrel. I can get that done in about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. 2 hours on the long end. The other ones, they're 2-3 hours, because I got to let glue dry and all that kind of stuff. And I don't really work fast particularly. I mean, I could definitely just come in here and blow and go, but I really enjoy the process of making a call. Like I really look forward to it when I get to do it. So I try to go in there, and I'm pretty tedious, or I think I'm pretty tedious on what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, the makers, they're all acrylic CNC'd?
That's correct. Yeah. So the CNC, they'll spit them out in 10 minutes versus, taking me, an hour or two to turn a call.
And you guys outsource them, you're not machining them yourself?
Not currently. We've got a machinist that does that maps our designs for us and then turns those parts for us. But we've got machines coming in-house in the spring. So
nice.
That way that's just another cost that we can try to figure out how to do. Mm-hmm. So Travis is gonna head that up for us. He's gonna be our head machinist.
Nice.
We'll see how it goes. I guess if there's other people in the world that can figure it out, I feel fully confident that he can. So
right.
Not worried about it.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on again. You've answered a billion questions I had.
No, I love doing it. If you guys have any more, there's really no wrong question to ask, I don't guess. But I like kind of nerding out on the calls. Getting down in the technical parts of it. I do. I really enjoy that. So
yeah,
awesome. I could foresee us doing another one.
Oh, we will. Yeah, we always do. I always end up having the same people back on. Just hit it off really good, and I appreciate your input, your knowledge, and some of the tips that you've given already in this podcast, which I know, guys, you need to go check them out and follow them in any social media if you can, if you haven't, because you've already did some stuff on there. I've been duck hunting for a long time, but I'm not going to say I've been a great duck caller. I've gotten better over the last couple of years because I've really put a ton of time into it. Mm-hmm. But like you said some stuff on some of your videos. I can't remember the last one I just watched. I was like, man, I never thought of that. I think it was one of your last videos you put up.
It was probably the cut down, because a lot of people asked me, hey, how do I blow a cut down? And I told guys.
It was that one.
Yeah, because I told guys, and I've taught a lot of people this way, and it's almost like a light bulb goes off in their head. And I don't know why teaching them, to basically lock the call down with your hand. And a split second after you cut your note off, or I'm sorry.
Start your note.
Yeah, a split second after you start your note, you cut your note off, and your hand's open. So you open your hand, you cut your note off, just a split second after. Sorry, I got that confused for some guys. But yeah, it's stuff like that I think should, that I do it so much that I don't think that it's valuable information. I have to remind myself there's a lot of guys out there that want to learn how to do it. And I remember being that guy. And because when I started, calling just in general in my head was my way out of the state of Alabama to be able to go hunt. I was like, well, if I can blow a duck call really well, maybe I'll get invited to go places, which obviously doesn't work that way. That's me being naive, but
But if you are a bad caller, you don't get invited.
For sure. Right. But that is stuff like that I have to remember. Hey, I try to remember, what it was like being in my shoes, trying to learn how to call, the type of information that I was looking for. So
right.
I'm trying to do a better job of that this year of trying to coach guys and give them some tips and hints on how to progress and get a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, we're going to let you go. I know it's the evening for you. We appreciate your time, man. Nice meeting you on hopefully next year. I don't know, are you guys going to be at the Delta Waterfowl event next year?
We're planning on it. Yeah, that was a really good for us. So
that was awesome, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to try to be there for sure.
Cool. I'm going to try to go this year.
Yeah.
It was
a good time.
Delta did a really good job putting that event together. Had a lot of really great vendors. So we were really impressed with it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody, thanks again, Colton, for being on the show. And guys, they also have a podcast. What's the name of your podcast, Colton?
The Makers Call Company Podcast. We kept it pretty simple.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically a diary for us so that we can find a way around social media, because a lot of the stuff that we post sometimes doesn't get to everybody. So we're trying to just keep a backlog of hey, this is what we're doing, this is what's coming. So if anybody's wanting to listen, I think it's on all platforms. So it's just Makers Call Company Podcast. We kind of kept it simple.
Cool. Awesome. All right, everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, appreciate it.